everyone, and welcome to Harv's World, where we are in HAUT BELERON on a beautiful fall morning. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Well, beautiful for now. Rain in the forecast. So I pushed and pushed and pushed, working long days, long hours, trying to get Mr. Swede's farm up and running, all my fields prepped for winter time, and I succeeded. Fields are in good shape, they're all ready. And now it's twiddle my thumbs time. Unfortunately, I can't just casually sit around twiddling my thumbs because I need to find a way to start bringing some money in. We've been spending it not too bad, 50 grand or so so far, just to prep everything. That's not horrible. So I've been picking up work from some of the locals. I got a spraying job, a couple spraying jobs I'm going to be doing this morning. And then once those are done, we'll see exactly where we stand at that point. Hopefully, because, man, herbicide's expensive. Just the 2,000 liters I put in this thing was almost 2,500 euros. So, and yes, I perpetually switch back and forth between dollars and euros because I'm still, to this day, used to saying dollars. Anyway, moving right along. Just going to keep trying to pick up some work around the valley here. See what we can do to bring in some money. Maybe outside of our normal crops we can make enough to actually start accomplishing some of these goals for Mr. Swede and his restaurants. Who knows? Not me. I kind of know where I'm shooting or headed for first, but I don't want to speak too soon because, well, you know how it goes. You start talking about what you want to accomplish, and the next thing you know, you haven't, and that kind of sucks. And then you look like an idiot. Anyway, moving right along. So last time we were talking about France and some of the interesting things about the people who live in France. Some of the just general information, snails, eating them, making them or having them ride on a high-speed train, that sort of thing. Today I want to get more into the agricultural sector of France, which is impressive, I have to tell you. The information I've been coming up with about French agriculture, I had no idea. I had no clue that France was as big agriculturally as they ended up being. France is actually kind of known as Europe's breadbasket. They're the largest producer in the European Union. Hands down, by far, the largest producer in the European Union. Isn't that a beautiful scene right there under that bridge? That is outstanding. Let me get a screenshot of that. Get a double screenshot of that, apparently. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty spectacular. As I wreck the crap out of this. Well, it's not mine. I don't have to pay for it. That's no way to be, Harv. Anyway, yeah, France is known as the breadbasket of the European Union. They produce a lot. Now, they're not the number one producer in every category, but they are the number one producer in many categories, and overall, all things combined, they are the largest producer in the European Union. In fact, this was interesting, 52% of the land in France is dedicated to farmland. Over half of their land is farmland. That's impressive. And another 39% is forest. Forest, moors, rocks, mountains, things like that. So you add all that together, that's 91% of their land area. So only 9% is actually inhabited by people. Most of the rest of it is taken up by farming and just nature in general. So kudos to you, France, for utilizing your land so efficiently. Now, as far as agricultural holdings and such go, France has almost 500,000 farms. 437,000 farms. That's a lot of farms. And now HAUT BELERON here is one of them. In a manner of speaking, more or less. Yeah, we're going to include ourselves in that. Why not? Digital or otherwise. Alright? Get into the stats however you can. That's going to be my rule now. Just whatever statistic we can get added to, we're getting added to. Anyway, yeah, 437,000 farms employing 824,000 people. That's almost 2 to 1. And we've got about 1.5. You know, Mr. Kuntz comes in, Eric helps me out from time to time when I need it. Obviously, today there's not any work to do on the farm, so he probably won't be around, but you know what I mean. So yeah, 2 to 1. And interestingly enough, of the heads of a lot of these farms in France, they are 25% female, and of all of those agricultural employees, 30% are women. I don't know why. Agriculture has always seemed like a male-dominated kind of thing. I guess that's our own weak perception or whatever, but I was impressed to find out that so many women are involved in agriculture. Yeah, so 30%. Okay, that takes care of our contract on field 48. Outstanding. Now it's off to, I believe it was field 35, yes. Field 35, same thing, herbicide. And yes, I borrowed this equipment to do this contract, but I'm going to sneak over and complete another contract with the exact same equipment. Don't tell anybody. I don't want to get in trouble. No trouble for Harv. In fact, this is pretty much my farm right over here, so I'm going to sneak up this road right through my farm and cut over to 35. Now, another interesting fact about agriculture in France is that they claim, now this is all lumped together, but the cattle herd in France is the largest in the European Union. And they have over 18 million cows in France. 3.5 million of those are dairy cattle. But yeah, 18 million cows. Can you imagine? That's a lot of freaking cows. No wonder they make so much cheese. They got milk coming out of their udders. Literally and figuratively. Yeah, in fact, you know, as far as animal production goes, milk accounts for 36% of animal productivity. That makes sense, right? You got that many bloody cows. Milk is going to be a huge factor in that, but you know what that means? That's good for guys like me who are going to produce silage. Because all those dairy cattle are going to need to be fed. And I'm going to make sure that the cattle around here have plenty of feed. Plenty of it. And make a little money in the process. Which is, you know, what we really want to do anyway. As far as everything else goes, you know, beef products, things like that, make up 21% of France's animal agriculture. Pigs, bacon, ham, that kind of thing. 13% chickens, 12% eggs. Eggs run 6%. And then you've got other things like calves for veal. Some people don't care for that idea very much, which I respect. Then you've got sheep and goats also. Those both account for about 4%. And then there's others. I don't know what others pertains to necessarily, but I just have this weird thing in my head. You know, there's a snail farm somewhere producing 4% of the agricultural products for animals in France. Yeah. Moving right along. And of course, with all that, I mean, it's not all animals. France produces a ton, especially cereal crops. They're big into cereal crops. They do a lot of sugar beets. They do protein crops account for quite a bit of their agricultural productivity. And what I mean by protein crops are things like lentils, beans, stuff like that. Anything that you grow that's high in protein. Oh, and let's not forget the oil crops like canola, um, sunflower, that kind of thing. Yeah, France is huge. I didn't have any idea how massive France's agriculture really was. Very impressive what they are accomplishing in France. Okay, that's going to wrap up spraying this field. 2 contracts down, and I made a major boo-boo. You probably caught me on it too. I forgot to, because you know when you're setting up a recording, getting ready for the day, you turn your time down so you're not wasting a bunch of time, especially when you're playing at like a high speed, like 10 times speed. And when I started recording, I forgot to turn the speed back up. Oops. It's all good though. From this point on, 10 times speed, and yes, I've only got 300 liters of herbicide, but this stuff is freaking liquid gold. So I am not gonna send that back with this equipment. That's almost 9,000. Almost 9,000. There we go. Let's see what else have we got here. There was one. Now, this is still happening. Apparently it hasn't been fixed yet, but these look like really good fertilizing contracts, and my God, would I love to be able to take them. But if I accept these contracts, they just disappear. Even with the big patch, they haven't fixed that yet, unfortunately. But look at that. That's interesting. That's a big plowing job, but that's a lot of money. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a shot. Besides, I'll get to drive a Kloss, right? I also noticed that there were quite a few harvesting contracts available, but with rain in the forecast, I don't dare even think about those. Not a bit. I can just see taking a harvesting contract, and the rain starts falling, and then I'm just completely hosed. So I'm not going to put myself in that position. Now, this is a nice little tractor, I got to tell you. I don't think I want to go up yet. Go down to the far end. The Fendt. Where's the Fendt? The Fendt is actually out of service right now and probably will be all winter. It was getting pretty old. It has over 80 hours on it now, and frankly the maintenance costs were getting exorbitant. So it's at the shop. I told them to give it a complete workover. It's probably going to cost me around 75 or 80,000 to do all of the work that they felt like should be done to refurbish my tractor. I'm not giving up the Fendt. Anybody who thinks that that's going to happen, you can forget about it. That's obviously not going to get paid for out of Mr. Swede's farm money, but I did have money saved up from previous jobs, like my this is field 6. I can cut across here to get to field 5. Especially working in Ravensburg for Frau Baumann. There you go, Mr. Plow. Now I kind of wonder, because they gave me GPS for this tractor. So I'm kind of wondering. And it looks like this plow splits right down the middle, so I don't need an offset. Maybe I do, and I just don't know it yet, but we'll see. We will see. And I'm going to get closer to the edge over here. About like so. See what happens. GPS, however, should make this a lot easier. It was nice of them to include that when they shipped this or provided the equipment. That's some serious plow action right there, but that's some serious field. This is going to take a while. It is going to take a good long while. And let's shoot for that. Okay, yep. It's a weird angle on this field too. It's not straight. That's okay. Let's try it. Oh, and we're snapping now. No, we don't want any snapping. I guess I'm just going to set this up manually because it's kind of being a hassle right now. And that was 255, wasn't it? No, it's just not going to work and play well for me today. Not a bit. Oh, I know what's up. Never mind. I got this. I got this. It's got terrain snapping turned on. That's why it won't accept 255. Haha. I have you now. And it put my offset back, so I got to clear that again. There we go. There we go. We got it now. That's better. Much better. I don't think 255 was quite right, but it'll do us. It will do. Yeah, that's a lot of plowing to get done. This might take all day, actually. It might. So, France. Getting back to France agriculture. It is a lovely day right now, isn't it? Yes, I keep getting distracted. But getting back to French agriculture. France is the 5th largest grower of wheat in the world. There's only 4 countries that produce more wheat than France. The first one is China, then India, then Russia, and then, of course, the United States. Interestingly, also about France is that just in fruits and vegetables, we're talking about 75,000 companies that employ 450,000 people. I don't know. I find all this really impressive. I had no idea that France was. I guess it's naive of me to say that, but no idea that France was that ingrained in agriculture. Kind of foolish of me to say that, I think, actually. If you spend 5 seconds thinking about it, you're going, well, of course. Of course they're big into agriculture. Why wouldn't they be? I don't know, how often do we sit back and think about, scratch your chin and go, France, I wonder how much farming they do in France. That's not really what we think about when we think of other countries is it? It's what kind of cool architecture do they have, or what are their famous landmarks, or what's their history? Not. Did you? I wonder how many cows. I'll bet France has at least 18 million cows. You know what I'm talking about. Well, I told you this was going to take all bloody day. I told you. I knew it. This is a big, big, big field, but the job is done. I'm going to finish off this last row, but the contract is complete, so I'm at least going to make sure that everything gets completed. It is what it is. I'm going to call it a day. I'm pooped. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Well, yesterday was a very productive day. I mean, that plowing contract took the better part of the day, but it paid 16,000 euros. I'm not going to complain. That puts me at around 25,000 euros earned yesterday. Yeah, no complaints there whatsoever. It's the first day of December, and as I'm sure you can imagine, there isn't a whole lot in the way of work to do. Somebody looks like they let their soybeans get away from them, and now I'm just been hired to plow them under. Cultivate them under, not plowing this time, but at least I can use my own equipment, so I don't have to pay anything to borrow other people's stuff. That's a big bonus. A huge bonus. So, getting back to France. France and agriculture, I mean, it's crazy what France is able to produce. And I don't mean crazy in a bad way. I mean crazy like I am genuinely impressed by what they are able to accomplish over there. They're doing remarkable, remarkable things in agriculture. They are, and this is compared to other European countries now. European Union type statistics here, but, they're the number one beef producer. The number one beef producer in the European Union. 16% of the meat that they produce in France, they export. So clearly they're producing far more than their country needs. If you remember Italy, back on Ischia farm, Italy doesn't produce enough to supply its own country. They have to import a lot. Well, not France. France is sending a bunch of food out into the world. Obviously, that helps their country, but more importantly, it helps other countries, provides for other countries. France is putting it out there, man. Now, this isn't necessarily farming related, but I found it interesting. France is the number one exporter of natural spring water. You could almost say that's a little bit farming related. Not really so much, but still. Exporting, I mean, who hasn't heard of Perrier? Perrier bottled water, which has been around for a long, long time. Yeah, that was pretty intriguing. Now, this one is also pretty cool. Those of you who enjoy your beer from time to time, drink responsibly, kids. But those of you who enjoy your beer, France is the #1 producer of malt barley. Malt from barley. Or I should say the #1 exporter. Oh, this tractor does not like cultivating up this hill. Yeah, it's struggling a little bit. Got a downshift. It's alright. It's a little tractor that could. 40% of the milk, we talked about how much milk they produce. 40% of the milk that they produce is exported. They produce so much milk they don't even need 40% of it, and they make all those types of cheese. That's got to tell you something. A little bit of something about what France is able to accomplish in the agriculture sector. I'm genuinely impressed by this. Like, I had no idea France was so dominant in agriculture. None whatsoever. This one's actually pretty interesting too. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I did mention earlier that one of their primary crops was sugar beets. They are the #1 producer of beet sugar in the European Union. Yeah. So you know they're growing a lot of sugar beets. Now, personally, I don't care for beet sugar. I prefer cane sugar. That's just my personal preference. But there's an awful lot of beet sugar that gets produced in the world, and France is obviously one of those countries that's doing it upright. This one actually caught me by complete surprise. This isn't just a European Union fact, this is a fact about the global export economy. France is the #1 exporter of potatoes in the world. Globally, they export more potatoes than any other country. Let's see, Idaho thought that the U.S. had a lock on it because, you know, Idaho is known for their potatoes. Sorry, Idaho. Sorry, and Idaho produces an awful lot of beet sugar too. But they can't hold a candle to France. So sorry, Idaho. Yeah, this isn't bad little equipment. It's probably maxing out its size for this size of a field. Not bad. We'll be alright. We'll be alright. Now, when you think of chocolate, you probably think of places like Switzerland. You know, places that have become famous for chocolate. But France is actually, in Europe, the #3 producer of manufactured chocolate products. So, you know, that would be like candy bars, truffles, anything that uses chocolate in a manufacturing process. France is #3. Apparently they're trying to take over everything. And of course, we already talked about this a little bit, but in Europe, France is clearly the #1 producer of cereal grains. Hands down, without a doubt. And they're also the #1 producer of flax in the world. Flaxseed, fiber. Yep, downshift, brother. I know you don't like going up this hill. We might have to avoid coming up this way again. We'll just run east-west from now on. We're all the way down in first gear. Look at that. Come on, brother. You got this. It's not a bad tractor, but it's not the Fendt, you know? It's not the Fendt. Now this one kind of makes sense. There's an awful lot of coastline around France. Just ask the Vikings. They used it to their advantage repeatedly. But France is number 2 in the European Union for aquaculture. And aquaculture, if you don't know, is fishing. Fish, farm-raised fish, fishing in general. Yeah, aquaculture. Big deal. Big deal in France. Now, considering how many cheeses France produces, as we talked about before, and I've actually heard conflicting reports about that. I said 1,600 before. I'm seeing 1,200 quite a bit also. Who knows? It's a lot of frickin' cheese. But considering all the milk that they produce and export, and all the different types of cheeses they make, they are still only number 2. I don't know who number 1 is. I'm not worried about anybody else, just France at the moment. But they are number 2, the number 2 producer of milk, butter, and cheese in the European Union. Who knew? Not me. Not me whatsoever. Well, once again, that contract took a better part of a day. The day's not over yet, but man. Oh, I didn't want. I can sneak through here, right? Right, sure, why not? But that's another $4,000 in my pocket. That'll put us over 80,000 euros. Doing pretty well. Got to start thinking about how to progress this farm. And I'm sure you know that there's not much going on the farm during the winter time. So I think when we meet again, it's going to be March. Spring is going to be here, and hopefully there will be a lot more to do. I think that's going to do it for this episode of HAUT BELERON. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found out something useful and interesting about France. Obviously a great and interesting country, at least from my perspective. Anyway, I really appreciate you coming along for the ride. And until next time, take care.